everybody. We are in for a very candid conversation on today's podcast. Being in a relationship with a narcissistic partner can leave you feeling like you're on a wild roller coaster ride filled with intense highs and devastating lows. One moment, you might feel like you're on top of the world, basking in their praise, and the next, their dismissive words beat you down, leaving you feel small. You're constantly navigating their unpredictable anger or their cold detachment. In this episode of the Robert Jean Experience, we're going to explore the connection between childhood PTSD and your relationship choices, helping you see exactly why you're in a narcissistic relationship and, more importantly, how to heal. I'm your co-host, Crystal Dirksen, alongside of your host, Robert Jean, with nearly 30 years of experience. Robert is one of America's leading experts on stress, trauma, and PTSD. He is a behavioral engineer and a drug rehab consultant. He has been at the forefront of transforming the world's understanding of trauma, challenging traditional teaching, and exposing the truth.
Wow, that sounds good. Amazing. Well, I'd like to kind of clarify a few things in the intro. And one of the first things is, if you would do research, do a Google search and type in normal narcissist or healthy narcissist. Do that one.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because there's a big misnomer about what narcissism is or narcissism. First of all, my belief is that everyone on the planet has narcissistic traits. They use tactics for survival and to get what they want. So if you would, go ahead and do that real quick.
I have it here, and it
Okay,
is
good.
completely different than this is a totally different perception, Robert, because my model of what a narcissist is, I want to stay far away from that. I do
Okay.
not want to be a narcissist. But your
Mm,
model of thinking is completely different. So I have it
right.
here. A healthy narcissist is characterized by a positive sense of self, confidence, and self-esteem without needing to demean others. It involves a healthy level of self-love and pride in one's ability.
Mhm. And again, one of the things now, by the way, so when you start over with, you start out with this sentence that you started,
Mhm.
then to go ahead and start over, but this time change unhealthy relationship instead of narcissist. Because again, you want a relationship with a person like this that you just read. They don't
Absolutely.
have to beat you down to get themselves lifted up. They don't run over anybody to make them feel like somebody.
Yes.
So
See,
read that first part again.
yeah, this is saying that a healthy narcissist is characterized by a positive sense of self,
Hmm.
confidence, and self-esteem. This is someone who has their shit together.
And if it's in their if what they hold within themselves and they honor themselves, they're nice to themselves, you know what they're going to do to other people? The same thing,
Right.
right?
Yes. But
And
my model of narcissism is I even before going onto this podcast, as I did some of the research and listened to other podcasts, I wanted so badly. I was so scared that there's parts of me that's a narcissist. So I'm very cautious that I don't get too confident, that I don't get too brave, because what if that's being a narcissist? And this is a totally different
right.
perspective.
Now again, being self-confident and being positive, people, this is what people are doing. They're coming and for example, listen to this here. The most important thing to understand is one, do you feel isolated? Do you freeze up? Do you have trouble making decisions? You always feel like you've done something wrong? Unexplained physical symptoms? You got pains in your body frequently, oftentimes, to control your happiness and well-being? Do you feel restless and unsettled? You don't recognize yourself at times? You have trouble setting boundaries? You have symptoms of anxiety and depression? These are all productions of being in a relationship with someone who is unhealthy. You will not get that from a healthy narcissist. And you know why? They're not going to use control tactics on you. They're not going to gaslight you when you say you feel sad. You say you don't feel sad. You're just whatever, or they don't wait to attack you. They don't give you the silent treatment to control you. They won't use as a scapegoat, making fun of you and what you're doing. So all of these are symptoms, most likely starting at being born into a family. If you think about it, parenthood is very narcissistic. Now, it depends on the type of narcissist you're dealing with. You got a healthy family, but for most people are not coming from a family whose parents who are healthy. A lot of our parents have had abuses to their life. A lot of them has come from war-torn countries. They come from bad experiences. They too were abused. You too were beaten by people. And so when they give birth to a child, you know what they're going to use on this child? The same thing they went through their training. And they're going to give it to you. And then you're going to grow up thinking, what did I do wrong? You're going to grow up and feel isolated. You freeze up when things happen because deer in the headlights, you go, I better not do anything because bad things are going to happen. You don't want to make any decisions because you're afraid it's going to be the wrong one and then you'll get in trouble again. Or you're going to try to be perfect so that nothing bad will happen to you or anyone else. All of these are really symptoms of what I would call trauma. Now, the word trauma is not a wound. It's not a permanent wound. It is really an emotional education on how to survive in the world. So again, when you come from an environment, when you have parents who got problems, you have a sister who hates you, a brother who's jealous of you, or everybody seems to be against you, you will learn to survive in that system, which means you may develop tactics. They will call narcissistic tactics to get what you want, to protect you, to survive, etc. So it's like your parents didn't go get a book out of the library or got a book on the iPad and they're going to read, okay, these are tactics to control my child or my husband or my wife or whoever. These are inborn survival systems that our brain has within ourselves.
So you're saying that narcissism is made in childhood.
Well, I say made. Remember, if you think about it, again, what is my definition of narcissism?
Yeah.
Narcissist, right?
Yes.
Narcissism is my way's the right way, how I see it is right, and I think you should do it my way. And if I have really unhealthy tactics to get my way, I will use tactics to get me what I want. And I have the right to treat you any way I want until I get what I want. It's
Okay.
very self-enforced. Now, again, what's the opposite of that? Again, you could be what you call the receiving end of this stuff. And so now you're going to be the kind person, the good person. Well,
Right.
they like those people. You know why? They get what they want.
Right. Okay. So I really want to hear what the other end of the spectrum is. So we have like the narcissistic person with the controlling traits and
But we'll say unhealthy narcissist.
unhealthy narcissists,
Ah,
because we're all a narcissist
everybody's
apparently.
a narcissist.
So
Even because narcissists call other people narcissists too, because they are one, because based on
I,
their own rules.
oh goodness, I have to really wrap my brain around this one, really, because I have been trained. This is a narcissistic person. This is a healthy person. This is an empathic person. And
Mhm.
to view this as everyone having these qualities. So everybody is, I don't know if this is the right terminology, but everyone is on the spectrum of narcissism.
Everybody,
Everyone. Okay.
everyone. Because really, narcissism is about what I think is right.
Right. Can you give me an example of that? So give me like a really tangible example that my brain can process what that looks like, a narcissistic person in their tactics.
Well, I mean, a narcissistic person in their tactics. I mean, there's a million different ways.
Right.
Like, what if you were to sacrifice your life to help people in a poor country?
Okay.
Why would you do that?
To help people. No. Okay.
Well, yeah, you're going to help people.
Or the training, let's say it's a religious training, because I've done
Yeah.
it. I've
Right.
I've
There you
gone
go.
to poor countries. I have helped poor people,
Yeah.
but I did it because that's what God wanted me to do.
And the God that you were told. Right.
Yes. And I
You
was
were trained.
like, there
Yeah.
was guilt behind it and fear.
Guilt and fear.
Yes.
And so the reason why you did it is not because of loving kindness, and you do get a fix out of that, but your real driving force is that you don't want to disappoint God
Right.
and you
So,
don't want to disappoint your family.
yeah, you're reading me like a book, by the way.
Oh, really? I just know how it works. I'm telling you. Yeah.
Totally.
If you offer your body to be sacrificed, there's a reason why you're doing it. There's a self reason why you're doing it. To
Yes.
please God or something, so that you may get some kudos in heaven. Who knows?
Yeah, right.
So everybody does based on what they think they want. Even
Hmm.
if it looks now again, there are people who do things to help other people and they're pissed off about the whole thing while they're doing it too.
Hmm.
And they still feel rejected, feel pain, and feel suffering because of it.
Right. And sometimes that's how I feel after. So after I might feel the resentment, after I might feel like,
Exactly.
why
Exactly.
did I have to, why am I always the one who's used and taken advantage of? Meanwhile, I know I'm giving myself away.
Yeah. But you were also trained
Hmm.
by your parents and your religion
Yeah.
that that's the right thing to do in spite of your own self-value.
Hmm. Right.
Now there
I
are positive now you let's say if you're driven by positive reasons, there will be no regret. There will be no being used.
am. Hmm. Right.
Because again, the motivating factor behind the action is the real key. Now, if you go back to the healthy narcissist, what does it say? My value comes from me. I honor myself. I practice good stuff in myself. I keep my thoughts clean. I honor other people because honor and dishonor comes from within ourselves. I mean, if you look at, I mean, now I'm not a religious person and I don't like religions in general. Okay, let me just put that out. But I do like the teachings of Jesus. Now, if you don't know what the teachings of Jesus, it's in red in the book. Okay, all right, it's in red. Now, the Paul of Narcissus, wherever Paul's from now, he never met Jesus. He never knew Jesus. He knew about Jesus, and he had a conversion on the road to Damascus. Okay, modern day churches are built on the teachings of Paul, who never met Jesus, never knew Jesus. Even Paul, in his writing, said Peter, James, and John, who knew Jesus, were trained by Jesus. You know what he said? They're not even teaching right gospel. Okay. So again, he thinks he's right. Now, he's a lawyer and a Pharisee, but most religions are built from Paul's teaching, not Jesus' teachings. Okay. But when I say Jesus, I want to say this. Jesus said, you'll love your neighbor as you love yourself.
Yeah.
All right. You'll despise and hate your neighbor as you despise and hate yourself. You'll hate your mother, your father, your ex, whoever it is, based on how you hate within yourself. Now, these are what we would call unhealthy narcissistic tactics. And if you're driven by pain, hurt, and judgment, and you think you're justifying what you're doing, that's where the problem is. Okay?
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
again, the true value of a narcissist is being kind within yourself, and what you do inside yourself, you do to others. Now, people who know anything about narcissism, they study narcissists, they're going to find that these are very wounded people. A lot of them, except for the healthy ones, they're very wounded people. They had abuses and traumas, and therefore they do it to other people, and they use tactics to control them and to manipulate them to get what they want. And again, they can be very charismatic on the outside, and then they go home and they beat their wife and they humiliate their children and they do whatever they do, because
Yes. That's
there
it.
is this dilemma,
Yes.
And again, a lot of wounded people,
Hmm.
and they've had traumatic experiences, and then they create tactics to stay alive. And so they want to create the other side, being a nice and charismatic, but they do it to get something for self.
Right. Right.
And
So,
that's where the big problem is.
yeah, can I share what happened with me growing up, if that's okay? So maybe I'm asking permission. Maybe that's that unhealthy narcissist. I don't know.
How about someone who's been trained to keep her mouth shut because of her religion? and their
True.
families, right?
Okay. Yeah. So this is this is the background. So I grew up in a church, a Mennonite church. Men sat on one side, women sat on the other.
Hmm.
And every time we would go to church, my dad, I remember him giving $20. So I would look from the women's side of the church, and I would look over at dad, and there he is with his check, and he's putting $20 in the basket. And I would look over, oh, I have such a nice daddy. And he was smiling. And then when we left the church on the way home, the drive home, we're sitting in the car, and my dad is swearing and cursing. And I remember thinking, I thought dad was happy. I thought daddy is happy and he's
Hmm.
like giving this. And I'm like, I'm enjoying this daddy and going back into the car. And that always left me feeling so confused because dad
Hmm.
is this way with people. And then when we are in the car, there's
Yeah.
nobody around.
Yeah.
He's a different person.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Again, by the way, both of those are not bad. Both of those are normal trainings, unfortunately,
Wow. So,
because hurt people train their children to be hurt and to be hurting. So they hurt other people or they train you to receive being hurt. And they're training you. But by the way, this is the bizarrest thing about the thing. So when you think about creating a harmony between the outside world and the inside world, we want, and the biggest problem, again, you go to most therapies, except I know for mine for sure, is different. Most therapies out there do not know how to change the bad stuff, which is memories.
mhm,
So what we're going to do is we're going to push away, pretend like it's not there. Don't look.
right.
But it's what drives our bad behaviors.
Mm,
So, if you look at the teachings of Jesus, so to speak, the real teachings of Jesus, he
mhm,
says, take every thought captive, right?
mhm,
He says, you're given, love, joy, peace, kindness, temperance, and sound mind.
mhm.
Take every thought captive. So again, he says, if your eyes cause you to stumble, pluck it out. He's not talking about eyeballs. He says, if what you hold within you is causing you problems,
Mm,
change it, get rid of it. He's talking about neuroplasticity, memory changes.
wow.
But in the side of the church, they don't know how to change memories.
That's right.
So then what they do is it's like a person I know specifically puts thick makeup on so that they will look one way on the outside, but when she comes home, the makeup comes off and
Mhm,
she's a different person.
right.
So that's where the dichotomy is.
Mhm,
That's where the two-faced person. That's why I think when he said a divided house falls, a divided mind falls, because you got two worlds fighting against each other. Now, some people say a narcissist won't change. Well, there's some parts about you that you're not willing to change yet. You
right.
know why? You know why? Because it's not safe to change those because you've been indoctrinated so emotionally that you will not even get close to your pain
Right.
because no one
Yes.
knows how to change that pain. Well,
Yeah.
I do. I can help you with that for sure. But that's
Yes.
where the problem is. If
Yes.
you have memories, traumas, PTSD experiences, and of course you go to anything else, they're going to drug you up. They'll try to talk it to death, or they
Mhm,
just say, practice positivity and try not to look there.
mhm.
And so that's the big problem.
Yeah. And you're so right about that, what you said, because I noticed that when I worked with you one on one, and even when I'm working with myself, I'm here like, it's not working for me.
And you know why? Because in your brain, it's not safe for you to work because you're still stuck in your family dynamics.
Right. So
You're whole indoctrinated to see the world from a specific point of view, which is from the traumas you experience.
right. So that's more familiar. So I'm going to stay safe,
Yeah,
staying this way. And that keeps
yeah,
me close to my
yeah.
dad, which I love. I love my
Yeah,
dad.
again, it's called trauma bonding. You're
Mm,
bonded to your traumatic players in your life. And by the way, they beat you, they shame you, they love you, they take you places, and they're kind to you. That's where the confusion is, you know?
right. Well, my dad was the violent one. My mom
Mhm.
was violent too. So we got the full spectrum, except the sexual abuse. We did not have any of that happen in the home. Um,
Maybe outside the home, but because remember, those trainings from especially religion really mess up a lot of people.
yes, yes,
And and because they become subservient, they give in, they bow down, and
mm,
then when they go out in the real world, guess who likes those kind of people? people
Oh,
who like to take advantage of other people.
oh God.
And that's why it's easy to it's easy to abuse them because they're already indoctrinated to be subservient.
Right. Can we talk about the spectrum? So the healthy narcissist on this side, and then all the way to the other end. And then the person on the other end of the spectrum, they would be attracting that unhealthy narcissist.
Mhm. Now,
Okay.
we kind of throw the word narcissism out. We got the picture.
Right.
Unhealthy characters.
Un
Okay.
okay. Unhealthy.
Unhealthy characters.
That's what we're calling it. We're
Yeah.
calling it unhealthy characters. Okay.
Yeah, because that's really it. People who have been hurt, people who've learned to survive in a tough world, and they're going to bring their tough world to your world.
Hmm.
And they're going to, and then here it is. Let's say you didn't really have, uh, maybe you're raised up in a family dynamics where people were nice and kind and really healthy narcissistic style people, right? They don't belittle you to put you down to control you. But say you are a nice girl and you could actually find someone who is not from your world, from a different world, where abuses and traumas, but at first, they're going to love you up. They're going to butter you up on both sides. They're going to say you're the most amazing person ever. They're going to give you everything you need.
Hmm.
And then slowly, they start breaking you down. They
Oh.
start to they start to isolate you from your friends and your family. Right? Then they will doubt your decisions. They will want to make you do it their way, not your way. Right? So then they'll start wear you down.
Right.
And then they'll have a big blow up, and then you'll say, "What's wrong with me? What did I do wrong?" And then they isolate, they ghost you, they disappear, and then you're jonesing for them because in your mind you still have the love, you have the great sex connection, you have the great communication, the butter on both sides of your life, and they really buttering you up, and now you want it, and you're willing to overlook
Hmm.
the abuse that they put you through. And they come back, they come, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I found Jesus. I'll go to therapy. I will do anything." They cry, they bring you flowers, and then they butter you up.
Right.
And it lasts for a little while. And then
Hmm.
they go back to their standard emotional training they received as a child. And then
Wow.
it pops up and happens again. You, the receiving end of it, that's when you start to doubt who you are.
Right.
You start doubting your sanity. And maybe they're right. Maybe I am a bad person. You start, and then again, then the weird thing is all the traumas you had with these guys, it's affecting you physically. You're now getting sick. You're
Mm.
now you're allowing them to break all your internal boundaries that you would never ever do. But they push you, they gaslight you, they manipulate you. And then next thing you know, you're in a big ball of mess.
Right. What are the common physical symptoms for people when they're experiencing the gaslighting, the manipulation?
No, no, what do you say? Ask the question
Yeah.
again.
The what are the common physical symptoms that
Well, we talk about physical symptoms. Let's talk about physical symptoms.
yeah.
If you're suffering pain, I help a lot of people with pain. Now, just remember this: the brain captures experiences, emotional, strong experiences, and good ones. The good ones don't make you sick, but the bad ones do. And so, when you have either physical issues like accidents, illnesses, or emotional traumas that really hurt you, your brain captures this information and it expresses the pain, the hurt, where? It expresses it through the body. Now, there's a misnomer out there, the body keeps a score. That's not true. The body expresses the score, but the scorekeeper is the memory bank in which holds all the references. Now, I've worked with thousands of people, and if you hadn't seen the people that I worked with who've had severe physical illnesses, blood tested real illnesses, blood tested really gone. And all we did is address mental, emotional experiences.
Mhm.
The body follows the mind. The body is innocent. So what happens is a lot of emotional traumas becomes real in the body. Now, physical pains could represent people. It could represent experiences. It could represent, I need to stay safe, therefore keep my mouth shut and make myself small. If I'm sick, maybe they won't hurt me. If I'm sick, they will love me and not abuse me. There's a lot of variances here.
Yeah.
And so this is how, now remember, to the brain, consciously, this is the prefrontal cortex. This is about as much as we can understand. The problem is all your whole life and all the traumas and all the education and training on how to survive is in the back part, which is about, I say 60% to 70% of your brain. It hijacks the prefrontal cortex because it knows how to survive. Prefrontal cortex can direct some things if it's consciously aware, but the backside overrides the front side, and that's when you get glassy-eyed. That's when you freeze. That's when you won't make a decision. That's when you're feeling isolated.
Going blank.
Going blank because the blank is like, oh shit, I'm shocked. I don't know what to do here. And it's not safe to do anything.
Yeah, I just escaped.
Yeah,
Gone.
it's an emotional escape. Now, by the way, we talk about stress, the three basic, you fight back,
Yeah.
you take off running, you
Hmm.
freeze or fawn.
Hmm.
In the beginning, you might try to fight back. You realize you can't win. So then you're going to go to a different tactic. You may take off running, but then they catch you again. So then you think, oh, I can't run. So I'll just freeze up, shut my mouth, suffer and endure, and wait till it's over.
Hmm.
So these are all different ways that we process traumas. Now, just remember, guys, I know a little bit about narcissism. I didn't know as much as I do now because I actually started studying, understand the process of the mind and how we process information. Looking back now, I realize everyone has trauma. When I say trauma, we say emotional education or survival education. That survival education is the one that survive. And so and people say, well, I don't have PTSD because I wasn't raped, murdered, didn't see any deaths or anything like that. But they don't realize post-traumatic stress disruption is not a disorder. It's basically survival training. And by the way, staying between the bar ditches when you drive is basically emotional training because if you don't, somebody's going to get hurt, you mainly, right? Or you'll get punished, you got to submit and give in because you know what's going to happen if you don't. So all of these are emotional training. So everyone has post-traumatic stress. Post-traumatic means past. Traumatic means emotional education. It's not a disorder. It's a discernment education. It's to stay alive.
Yeah. Hmm.
So again, now reason why you have to understand, what's a positive PTSD is not a disorder.
Right.
Positive PTSD is a birthday party and you're the guest and people love you. That's a positive experience. That's an emotional education. I didn't like my birthdays until 2015. I had a birthday party at a seminar. I go, wow, birthday parties are nice. I like birthday parties now. So my traumatic bad experiences with birthdays was updated with a new one. So again, your memories are updatable, your traumas can be updated and rewritten and changed.
Okay, for someone who is living with someone who, what are we calling this again?
It has emotional issues.
Yeah, okay. So someone, if you're living with someone with emotional issues, like I want to say narcissism because that's so my training. So what are they supposed to do? So let's say they're on their emotional training is grandiose, charismatic personality, and they cut you down. They cut
Mhm.
you down. They cut
Mhm.
you down. They make you, no one can make you feel small, but you feel small
They
after.
try to put you down, right?
Yeah. So what are we supposed to do if we're living
Well,
with someone like that?
well, first of all, you have to learn to take ownership of your thinking and processing and how you view and how you respond.
Hmm.
Again, if you look at a healthy narcissist, their value comes from them, their self-esteem comes from you, and they do things that are healthy within themselves. So now the bad thing is that this will not be your first rodeo. Most likely, you've also experienced it growing up as a child. So you're conditioned to put up and deal with, right? So the thing is, you want to change your memories of that because those are your training conditionings. So you got to update your training and change the memories. Now, guys, you listen to me and you don't know how to change memories, this won't make sense to you. I mean, it makes sense logically, but if you don't know how to do it, you can't do it. I do know how to do it. I'll train you how to do it. You can change yourself as a course I offer. All
Yes.
right.
Tell everyone about that. About level one, you can change yourself
Now,
because
you can change yourself is a training to introduce you to yourself. When I say yourself, how your brain works, how you create and how you operate within yourself, how to change the unpleasant memories that drive you to do things you don't want to do. So it gives you a full platform to give you control. And the nice thing is we have a community of people who, like you, are also working through their stuff. I'm
Mhm.
still working through my stuff, and I've been doing it for 26 years. So there's layers and layers of pieces. Now, my life today is nothing like what I started 25 years ago. I was a mess, bigger mess than I am now. I'm like a little bit of mess. Still got stuff to work on, right? But I can do it.
Right.
Before I suffered and endured. I don't have to suffer and endure.
Right.
I've gone through some really crazy stuff in the last 3 years. But
Mhm.
I still got my head above the water. I still understand logically. I'm not taking any souvenirs with me. I'm learning from it. That's why I'm doing this series here.
Yeah. So the first thing you're talking about is taking personal responsibility.
Take ownership of what you do within you.
Wow.
And,
That's
and I mean, all the spiritual teachers say, know thyself. Okay.
right. Yes.
What the fuck does that mean? Know thyself. Is it your driver's license, your birth certificate? No. It says, know what you do within you and change what is unpleasant inside.
Hmm.
Know how to do that.
Hmm. Um, sorry, I blanked out.
That's all right. Well, again, so again, we're talking about if you're in a relationship that is difficult, go and change and adjust the difficulties that you hold inside you. Remember, and I mean, I've talked about this a million times, but it you don't have these problems because of what happened outside you, like PTSD, or we'll call it PTSD, but emotional training. But let's say, for example, you had a mean, controlling dad or a husband or wife or a boss, or you saw something horrific. It's not because that happened that gave you PTSD. It's how your brain captured it, took it in, and internalized it and translated it. Five people can have the exact same experience and they all act five different ways. So it's not the event that gave it to you, but rather how your brain captured it, held it, processed it, and projected it.
Mhm. Every time you say that, I feel like I am not a victim. It feels very empowering for to hear that.
That's true. It is true, though.
Yes. And no one's a victim then of anything that you're going to experience because it's what your brain has captured.
Now,
And
you can victimize yourself with what happened and you replay and traumatize yourself and project it and imagine the worst scenarios. And that's what people do. I had a
right.
woman call me today. She says, I've tried so many things to get rid of my insomnia. And of course, what is insomnia? Insomnia is not something you have. You can't show it to me. You can't weigh it. You can't cook it. You can't fry it. You can't give it away. So
Mhm.
insomnia is something you do inside yourself. So instead of sleeping, you're entertaining yourself with worries. You're imagining bad scenarios. You're playing stories in your head. So I said, well, I said, how long have you had it? She said, I don't know, like 15 years. I said, what happened 15 years ago? She goes, I know what happened.
Wow.
My husband and he's coming in late at night and I'm angry and I moved to the other room. And guess what she's doing in the other room? Playing stories in her head. So she's programmed herself to stay awake.
Wow.
That's not a disorder.
No, not at all.
It's a protective system that's now keeping her awake. Now I've worked with lots of people who said they have insomnia. They don't. They find ways to stay awake because of something. And we
Mhm.
change the memory of that and now they can sleep again.
Wow.
So again, we go back to trauma. Trauma is just emotional education for survival. What you do in your head makes the difference. Now, again, the bad thing is there's a lot of people out there talking about PTSD, and you know what? They're still pointing at other people.
Right.
They're
That's true.
pointing at them.
Mm,
But here's the crazy thing is, if say you had a person who is an unhealthy person, you'll call it a toxic narcissist, right? Unkind. The bad thing is that you're learning how to be one like them. You know
mm.
why? Because you're experiencing. How you think they got to be that way? They had experiences. Now, either one or two things. Either one, you're going to be the glove, or you're going to be the hand that fits in the glove. And sometimes you flip flop. You can be the abuser, and then you can be the abusee.
Mm.
So that's the craziness. Now, again, like you said, you started reading this stuff and go, oh my God, I'm one too. And you know why you say that? Because you got programming.
Right, right. Hmm.
I do too. And I remember and when, because here it is, I'm working myself in the early days and a new relationship, and I wanted to control that relationship with certain things. And I thought, oh, that's not a healthy thing to do. So I
Okay.
tapped on it immediately.
Okay.
Yeah.
That I hope you don't mind me asking you these questions
Yeah.
because it involves transparency. So
Yeah.
with your last marriage and
Well,
the
let's not use, I don't want to use
oh,
that one because I don't
okay.
want to
So
talk. I
then
could talk in general about somebody else.
so maybe I want to ask this differently. So when you notice those unhealthy, what is called a narcissistic trait
Hmm.
inside of
Hmm.
yourself, like, can you share a little bit about what you specifically do? Because you
Right. So
truly model the
yeah.
example.
So one of the things that I have learned in the early age as a kid is something similar you've kind of talked about. When bad things happen, I escape.
Mhm,
So I walk away. Now I don't want to fight. I don't want to create another problem. So if I were in a relationship like you're mentioning, all
mhm.
right. So again, a healthy relationship say, hey, let's talk about what's going on. What's your role? What's my role? Well, if you're in a relationship with the other person who is acting in unhealthy ways, and they say there's nothing wrong with what I do,
Wow.
then you're at the position go, okay, hmm,
Wow. Okay. So right there. So I have to process this, but so if I would be speaking to someone and we know there's an issue, but
hmm,
they are, they have no problem. And yet there's clearly a problem, but
yeah,
their perception is there's no problem with themselves.
right,
You're not really going to go anywhere with that conversation.
right. Well, again, remember, you have to understand a person who does wrong in their mind, they're right.
Right. Okay. Okay. Yes.
And you must adjust to their rightness in spite of how bad it hurts you. They expect you to give in their way. So when it begins, like if you're in a relationship and they're always in the beginning, let's say for example, they loved you up, best sex you ever had, coffee in bed, breakfast in bed, you're the king, you're the best.
Okay.
And
Uh-huh.
that's called the buttering you up. That's called what do they call it? There's a tech.
Grooming or bond,
Yeah, they groom you up.
bonding.
Yeah,
Yeah.
again, and that's like dating. That's what people do. They don't say, hey, by the way, I'm diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenic and I have multiple personalities. They will do that to you. They'll wait later for it, right? So then, in the beginning days, they could say, they could say something like this. I won't be able to control you. And I would probably say, well, why would you want to?
Right.
It'll make sense. It wouldn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
But eventually, over time, they start working their way in. That, of course, remember. Here's the thing: is if the good stuff's good, you can tolerate some of the bad. But the good stuff's getting smaller, and the bad stuff getting bigger. Then all of a sudden, you got a big problem because the good stuff is disappearing, and the bad stuff is getting really big. You go, "I'm done. You don't
Wow.
care about me." And then you can say, "I'm done."
Wow. So
Well,
you then have the awareness, like, I can't change this person. It's not my job to change
I
this.
can't. You can't change somebody else.
Right.
I mean, you're having trouble now working on yourself, right?
Okay. But this is a common thought for empathic people. They
Well,
have, oh,
again,
you will
empathic,
change.
yeah, empathic people on a suicide mission
Oh, shit.
because you can't fix something who don't think there's something wrong with them.
Right. Interesting. But an empathic person will say, but you know what?
I
I
still
might
believe. I
I,
still believe.
yeah.
Let me pause here. I'm gonna give you a different story. A friend of mine, and I really care for this. I know this person for a long time. She used to be a heroin addict, and she's been heroin free for 15 years. And she's got her life together. She's feeling really good, right?
Yeah.
And she goes out and she meets this guy, and this guy is super charming. He's wealthy and he knows how to play the fiddle well for her. We're going to get married. We're going to have children. We're going to travel around the world. And the sex is so good, she says. Best sex in my life.
Hmm.
Now that's again playing the fiddle, giving all the cards. And now what happens when they do this? They create a perfect image of this relationship.
Yes,
We
I'm
call
smiling.
this a relationship imprint. This
Okay.
is also the same thing a drug addict will have with this drug. It's the same thing as a gambler will have with the win that drives them keep going back to the losing program. So this guy is now doing things that are and so she would never do drugs. She'd never drink. She'd never do this. She'd never do that. And each time he works her down and she loses her boundaries. And he would disappear. And you know what she's doing in her head? Missing the love part, the fantasy she had in her head. Now he painted a fantasy in her head, and she's addicted to the fantasy. And then he comes back, he loves her up again. I'm so sorry, I found Jesus. I'm going to therapy. And she says, see, he really did love me. He really did love me. I said, what about when he sent your naked photos to her brother and to her friends? What about whenever he's hitting on and trying to kiss this girl and dancing? Oh no, we just ignore that. I have my fantasy. Now
Oh,
this girl has gone downhill dramatically.
oh,
I send her videos about narcissism. They're going to love you up. They're going to up, and they're doing, and she knows this, but it's that memory and the feelings inside that keeps her going back.
so she's getting the dopamine.
She's getting the thrill, and she's trying to reach her dream. She's holding
Oh,
on to the dream that it's a facade,
right.
and
Oh,
now she's losing all of her hair, and now
oh,
she's really really in a bad place.
right. So
And then she said I'm going into rehab,
so
and now she's in rehab.
she
All
started
right.
up again.
So I said, you need to get away from this situation. You got to get out and get away. Well, the problem is, I said, physically beating the shit out of her. I said, go report it to the police, but I don't want him to get hurt.
Right.
This is all a part of the programmings.
Right. So even having the awareness of this guy, and so what she did was she made excuses.
Mm-hmm.
She looked away. She put her blinders on.
Mm-hmm. Because she had her fantasy. You want to hold on to her dream.
Fantasy. What is this fantasy? So this fantasy that what does that look like for someone? Is it the like because they're putting these blinders up?
Well,
Like,
hold on. You got to take the blind. We're not putting blinders up. They're
okay,
so in love with the dream.
okay.
They're
So
so in love with this dream. They want it so bad. It's like a heroin addict. I mean, by the way, guys, I volunteered 10, 12 years in drug rehabs, several of them. Well, one mainly in Hawaii. And that's what an addict does. I mean, an addict, here it is. They lost everything, their family, they lost everything, lost their freedom, and they wake up with sores and piss in their mouth and all kinds of horrible stuff. But you know what? When life gets horrible, when they're the worst possible, their brain pops in that little imprint. I got you feel good. I got you feel good. That's a heroin hit. That's the love hit that you want, the sex hit you want. That's the whatever it is. And they still go because all the other stuff doesn't matter. They just got this idea.
right.
And that's why they keep going back
Hmm.
because they're going to their fantasy.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
that's how addiction. By the way, it's an addiction style program, but remember the addiction, it's not the heroin that they're addicted to
Hmm.
because the addiction itself is a solution to an internal pain.
Right. Yeah, yeah.
And again, it's like why it's called trauma bonding, bonding to the addiction itself because it gives me the feel good. It's like they're still going back to the abuser because in their mind they're connected to it. They create stories to justify it and they recycle it over and over again. Now the bad thing is the That's what happens. But the bad thing is the abuser also is playing the same game with themselves. There's the thrill of controlling and manipulating someone. There's a thrill of conquering and overcoming someone.
So it's like the cat and the mouse.
It's an operating system. It's a complete operating system
Based on their childhood PTSD.
based on their programmings. Yeah.
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 Wow. Okay. Can you talk about how you heal this? Like, what are you
Well,
doing?
how do you solve the riddle
Yeah,
in
yeah, sure.
cycle?
How do you solve the riddle?
Right, right. Because again, remember, none of this is an illness.
Right,
These are just emotional trainings.
right. Not a disorder, not an illness.
No, it's just a coping system.
Yes.
It's
Okay.
just like somebody said, I come from a dysfunctional family. I said, there's no such thing as a dysfunctional family. There's a family that functions. It functions so well. When you leave, you find another one just like it
Right. It's so perfect. Wow.
because it's a system.
So I
Now,
love
what you want to do is you want to upgrade your systems.
your perspective is so empowering. When you say that, it's functioning perfectly.
Oh, yeah,
So why are we cooperating with?
because you're part of the system. You've been
Right.
trained to survive in it. Now, what you want to do is upgrade. Now, how do you get out of it?
Yes.
Number one thing is you got to heal the pain. You got to change the memories of what happened.
Mm-hmm.
It's the memories that drive you. Now, we talk about autonomic responses, unconscious responses. Even in Paul of Narcissistic, he says, my spirit is willing, but my flesh is weak. And what he's saying is, I want to do good, but my programming won't let me.
Mm-hmm.
The programming is the controller. It's the background. It's the autonomic response. It's the limbic operating system. It's the unconscious programming. This is how we do it. This is how we do it. We've been doing it all of our life. Mama did it. Grandma did it. We all do it. So how do you update it? You got to change grandma inside your head. You got to change your mom inside your head. Inside your head, you can change. And let me just say this for real. It's not what they did. It's how you captured and internalized it. So if you have stories in your head about grandma being abused, guess who's being abused? Not grandma. You. That's your how to.
Mm-hmm.
So to set you free from the cycle is to change the memory that built the cycle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Every time you say this, it sinks in and I hear it differently. Like
Hmm.
I'm now going through level one twice. I'm
You,
in
you could,
level one again and I'm hearing it differently. I'm
yeah.
letting it sink in very differently. And it's really powerful material. And level one, you allow people have access to level one for 2 years. And
No,
that's
no, we changed it now to a lifetime.
what?
Yeah, we just changed it.
Come on. Okay,
Yeah.
okay, stop there because I have never heard of a program that does that. I mean, people can give you their programs uh,
Mhm.
where they give the lifetime access, but this material,
Mhm.
I have always paid way more for other programs.
Well, again, this is a $10,000 life-changing course, easily, easily.
Absolutely. It is. It is. And actually, let's tell the listeners about you have a free gift right now that you're offering people, and that is a free strategy call with me
Oh,
where
yeah.
they can get clarity on their goals. Do you want to talk
Mhm.
about that?
Yeah, I mean, listen, some of you guys, I realize this is could be overwhelming. Maybe it's totally new and shocking. It's like it is totally the opposite of what you've learned. I understand that. But if you think about everything you've done, the operating system was the same. You're broken, something's wrong inside you. You have to learn to live with do it. So we're going to show you how to go in a way that will build a new life for you. We have lots of, I mean, we got Crystal, you talk to me, anybody, and we can help you guide you on what to do. The most important thing about your life is not your life in general, but what's between your ears. That's your memories, how you think and how you process the world. And so if you want something better, we'll help direct you. We'll help
Yeah.
guide you.
Yeah,
All you have to do, let us know. We'll hook you up
that's right. And we'll have the strategy link in the comments or in the description of the,
somewhere. Yeah.
yeah. All right.
But let's go back a little bit about um, common tactics that
Okay. Yeah.
abusers use. One of the things, like I said, they love you up, they groom you up, they think you're the king, the queen, whatever it is, And then they slowly start to break you down. They start trying to find fault with you. They're trying to alienate you from your friends. So what they'll do is they'll become your aunt's best friend. And they're going to slowly drop. I got a secret I got to share with you about Crystal. And then they start telling stories. And then they start giving stories like, well, things that's going to put distance between you and them.
So you're saying it's really these little subtle signs where they'll start dropping these little.
Yeah, because they got to separate you, they got to alienate you from your friends. And then, and like say for example, you have a church members, or you have, if you teach
Yeah,
your own modality,
right.
they're going to start dumping on you, the trainer, with your students. They're going to say gaslighting, or they say, well, he's not perfect or she's not perfect, you
Right.
know,
What does that do for them? What is that? What is the benefit?
power and control. Because remember, they want control, and how they get control because they know that you get a resource from your friends. And so if they get rid of your friends, guess who are going to get the resource? Only from you. So they want to alienate you from your friends and your family. They're going to move you away from your home. They're going to move you. They're going to tell all your friends. They become your friend's best friend. And then they slowly dwindle poison between you and them.
You are reading you. It's like you're reading my life. So
Well, let me just say this. I am personally aware of this as well. Okay.
wow, like what you're saying is so detailed that I know a person in my life that does exactly those things
Mhm.
that you're saying.
Mhm. And because remember, they want what they want. And they're willing to do whatever it takes to get what they want.
What do they want from me? What are they going to think that's
Well, it depends. Let's say you and I don't know who, I'm making up a story. Say, let's say, for example, you and your best friend started a business together, a healing modality together, and it's really good and successful, and they start to become jealous of you. So they're going to try to get it away from you. So how would they do that? Well, first of all, they're going to start talking bad about you to other people. And then they're going to try to doubt your decisions. They're going to try to talk bad about you, or they're going to try and find ways to sabotage you. They're going to find fault with you, or they're going to not include you. And then they're going to act like, well, I sent you the email. Didn't you get it? Don't you ever answer your emails? Do you not understand what's going on? So they
right?
start getting you to doubt yourself.
Wow.
And
Okay.
and then of course, they also do that to your friends and your family. I mean, I've seen this in the early days. I mean, in the early days, I've seen this. I didn't know what was going on because I wasn't familiar with any of this stuff. I'm familiar with it now. I see it. I've experienced it more than once, and I was ignorant. But I never even studied narcissism. I didn't know it existed, to be honest with you.
Wow.
But then when I started saying, oh my God, I can see it all across the board.
But you're really smart. So what would you're saying you're ignorant in the past of narcissism, and maybe you weren't taught about narcissism
Mhm.
particularly, but you probably notice certain traits in people.
Yeah, I see. Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. I mean, you have to understand, I've been doing this for 26 years. I've been helping, I've been spending a lot of time in the minds of others.
Yeah. And this is something that I noticed about you. Even before neuroscience was so popular, you were
Mhm.
already
Yeah.
operating neuroplasticity, like
Oh
the
yeah.
principles of it. You were harnessing all the principles.
Oh yeah. And
But
then they finally caught up with me.
yeah, exactly. But that term wasn't popular.
Mm-mm.
I heard people talking about renewing your mind, changing your mind in different terms,
Mhm.
but now neuroscience is huge.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I will say this system that I teach is top shelf. It works.
True.
It's practical. It's logical. It's a complete operating system.
Yeah. That's a high five.
And we leave the fairies and the imps and the demons out. No energy balls, no crystals, no seances.
Well,
Just
those
your
crystals, you know,
except your crystal involved a little bit, but the point
yeah,
is the point is I'm a very logical, practical person.
yeah.
It has to make common sense.
Hmm.
And again, the nice thing is you don't have to believe my system for it to work because it works because it's mechanical.
Hmm. Absolutely. That it's true. It's scientific. I mean, science is showing us all the things that you're doing. And even and I don't want to maybe necessarily go into the modality of it, but you touch on NLP, EFT, like your modality kind of combines a lot of them together, even the somatic experience with the breath.
Yeah, everything, you name it.
Yeah, it's like it's the perfect mix and it doesn't take long. So it's incredible.
Well, I mean, I've been doing this for a long time. I mean, if I really count the years, I started at 15 trying to figure this out. Not that I'm trying to create a system, but I want to figure out how to solve my problems.
Right. Yeah.
And so that's what I did. I worked to solve my problems.
Hmm. So one other question regarding when someone is, let's say someone has that narcissistic tendency, they're starting these little subtle things. So let's say someone at home, they recognize what we're talking about. They are hearing, oh yeah, like those people, there's someone in their life that is subtly talking about them. I don't even know how to ask this question, but they recognize that what you're saying about that, that one person who is talking behind their back or they're being gaslit. They're starting to recognize those signs. I'm
Hmm.
being gaslit. They're talking behind
Right.
my back. What am I supposed to do? What is our listener supposed
Yeah,
to do?
you know, that's an interesting thing because things was happening to me personally. I had no idea what was happening. I had no idea. I did not understand what was occurring. Things were being done and people were not wanting to talk to me, and I didn't understand why.
Yeah.
It made no sense to me because I hadn't done anything. We'll come to find out that there were things being said and told and made up and stretched out to different stories. So what do you do? Well, first of all, you monitor and know what's going on inside you.
Hmm.
You have to own what you do in your head.
Hmm.
And again, when you think about it, it's our fantasies that we make up about what we think they're doing.
Right.
You know, because to me, none of this made any sense, none whatsoever. So
Hmm.
then, so you have to own your own responses.
Okay. So this goes
And
right back to personal responsibility. What
yes,
are you doing inside of
yeah,
yourself?
yeah, yeah. Because, you know, you think about it, if you're dealing with someone who's angry and mean and always blaming and always playing a victim, who suffers? They do.
Right. Totally.
And then some people, unfortunately, they are very gullible and they believe a good play.
Right. That's true.
They
Yeah.
believe a good play.
They buy right into it.
Yeah. And again, but here's the weird thing is, after a while, they start catching on and says, I've been fooled.
Right.
And, you know, and then, you know, I too, I've been fooled and I notice things. And so what I do is I don't say anything.
Hmm.
I just watch and
Probably
think.
wisdom right there. So
Yeah.
you don't say it. So that actually is
Mm,
wisdom for
mm.
our listeners at home.
So, you know, because when they do some weird stuff, you just say, I go inside my head. It says, now, and again, I teach how to process information. So, first of all, someone comes at you and they blame you about something or they accuse you of something. What you got to do is that, okay, you had to go, okay, what is this about me? What is it about them? And usually when they come at you, it's about them, not you.
Right.
And then you go, what can I learn from what they're sharing?
Right.
So, first of all, is it about me or is it about them? And
Hmm.
if you say, well, it's not about me because that's not how I think. And then you go, but what can I learn from this experience? And then the next thing you ask yourself, is this pure horse shit?
I'm
If
writing
it's
that.
pure horse shit, you can just be entertained and then walk away.
Right. Okay. Mhm.
And again, I practice this. Now,
So,
granted, there are times, and I'm human, I got sucked in a few times.
okay. So what
And
does that
again,
mean?
yeah,
You got
so
sucked in. You got sucked in, meaning like you played into it, you jumped on
yeah,
a horse and you went for a ride.
yeah, I got sucked. Or really basically I defended myself, you know, but I
Okay.
got angry because I had to defend myself.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So then would you say that we have these relationships because there's that attraction, like so that narcissistic trait in the other person that could that could be showing us something inside of us.
Well, yeah, again, remember this trait that we allow in our life,
Hmm.
most likely it resembles someone else in our past, maybe your mother.
Okay.
And then there's what you call the bonding of this. This is my mother. I have to learn to live with her and love with her. But you don't have to date her or marry her or him. Because see, even though, say it was your mother who is controlling and manipulative, and you're going to marry a guy who's controlling, manipulative, just like your mother. So it doesn't necessarily have to be, like a lot of people say, well, a woman will marry someone like her dad, and a man will marry someone like her mother. That's not true. Most likely you'll mimic and mirror and date someone who has the strongest negative emotional impact.
Mm.
And then that becomes a part of our thinking world, our value world.
Mhm.
And sometimes if you're really lucky, you got two jacked up parents and you can find both of them in one pair of shoes.
Oh gosh. Oh my goodness. That is
And
a
it takes a lot of work to dig and find that one. But you
wow.
know what? Your radar, your reticular formation will find what your heart's desire is
Wow.
stay in alignment with family and training.
Hmm. Wow. Any final words for the listeners?
Final words is this: learn how to change yourself from within yourself.
Yeah.
Take ownership and change everything that's not pleasant inside your mind. Update whatever you have in your mind to what you'd rather have instead. And the nice thing when you do that, it doesn't make you stupid. That means you will not repeat the cycles. You can learn from it, but never do it again. And then you can start picking better because what you hold within you is better.
That's right.
So that's how you do it. So learn to like yourself, love yourself from within yourself, and what you hold within yourself, you're going to attract. So make sure it's good. So if you're going to have a fantasy, guys, not a shitty fantasy, have a happy, loving fantasy and attract what you hold within.
That's right. Oh, thank you. Thank you so much for all your wisdom today. And thank you to all the listeners for tuning in to another episode of the Robert Jean Experience. Don't forget to sign up for Robert's free 5-day online course
Mhm.
and a free strategy call with me. So go ahead and we're going to have the next episode coming up. I don't know what we're going to do for the next episode. I don't know if I need to talk about that.
We're going to do any, well, we do have some people lined up that we'd like to talk to them about their life changes from physically severely ill to no longer ill at all, living a life beyond their dreams.
Hmm,
So,
sounds amazing.
yeah. All right. Very good. Thank you, guys.
Yes.
All right. That was good.
Yeah, it was so good. I have to let this stuff sink in. It's so good, Robert. I don't know anybody that teaches like this.
Well, probably because they don't know how to get to the point to change.
But this is not traditional teaching. This is so powerful. You're worth so much, Robert. Oh, I just don't hear this. Like if I went onto all kinds of different podcasts and I'm being programmed with more narcissistic teaching.
Yeah. Because remember, they're blaming somebody.
Yes, yes. And they are and some are not necessarily fully blaming because some of them are saying, well, um, it's not your job to change the narcissist, but they're still calling them a narcissist rather than seeing it for what it is.
Yeah.
Programming. They
Right.
don't do
Again,
that.
yeah. Do these other guys say we are everyone's a narcissist? Most likely
No,
not.
no, not
No,
at all. No.
no.
And so now I'm kind of seeing it the way you're talking about it like as a spectrum. So here's the spectrum of what you can be experiencing.
Healthy,
Yes.
unhealthy, and everything in between.
Yeah. This is so good.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.